Oh, hello there. Welcome to the Amusing Panda live stream. Thanks everyone for joining us for a bit of a casual post-Adepticon catch-up. This week, I am joined by a special returning guest. Please, everyone in the audience, welcome Mr. John DeMaris to the show.
Hey, what's shaking? I missed you guys.
Say the line, Bart.
Musing and amusing.
There we go. All is right with the world. How you doing, John?
I'm really, really good. How are you doing?
Oh, still physically getting over Adepticon. That that was an exhausting weekend. But I am in high spirits and very excited about the game.
That's good. It sounds like you had a good time. I randomly ended up at Adepticon, so I was in Chicago for work, and then I was like, Adepticon's in Chicago, only it's not. It's in Milwaukee, so that was good.
Right. It's essentially a Chicago suburb. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you dropped in on us a bit by surprise.
Yeah, I was happy to be there. I miss you guys. This is Chateau de Mairie. This is my 1-bedroom apartment that I'm now living in because it's closer to work. So if that gives you an idea of what my life has been like lately, I rented a whole apartment to save me 3 hours of driving a day. So,
I mean, I'm sure if you add up those hours, like even prorated, that's a pretty good decision.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not. It's excellent. I'll say that. How's that? I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. You got the whole family on top of each other out there.
Well, it's just me, my wife, and my daughter, so that's not too bad. And she sleeps with us anyway. They both sleep with, but my daughter sleeps. My daughter sleeps in the bed with us right now because she's little. And
yeah, she's still itty bitty.
Yeah, she's a tiny little thing. Although I think I used to say she was like 10% turd and like 90% angel, but I might have got the ratio backwards.
Yeah, that's when toddling graduates to walking and grabbing things. Those ratios definitely get inverted.
Hey, what's up, tyrants?
Yeah,
good to see you.
We got a Mr. Gerard in the house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We got watching both yours and Andy's run in the team tournament was hysterical, as both theories were pretty heavily validated over the weekend. That's certainly for sure. So I guess that takes us into news and announcements a little bit. Some were more validated than others. So we had the Adepticon Iron Gauntlet and the ATC. And our guest from last week, Mr. Andy Bev, took down the whole thing, going 6-0 with Brine Bloods, a Fire Quill and I hate to say it, Thorga Boomhowler pair swept the entire thing.
So
what
Boomhowler OP
Andy's
then?
Run?
Yeah,
Boomhowler apparently OP.
Yeah, no, I watched actually a little bit of his games. Not that I knew what was going on, but I will say that Andy Bev is the only person that has completely raffle stomped me in Mark IV. Most of the games I've played have been pretty competitive. Andy beat me so bad, I considered what I was doing with my life. I was just like, yeah, but he did excellent.
I think I remember this from one of our first tournament reports. I think one of your first steamrollers back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and of your games, it was like, man, that Andy game.
Oh, it left a mark. I mean, I still have a footprint on my back, a nice little troll blood footprint. But yeah, it's great to see good people do well. And I mean, the game's full of good people, and I got to see. I mean, I was only there for a day, right? But I got to basically see my whole crew. Like everybody was there. It was great. Yeah. Except for Keith, because I invited him and then didn't let him ride with me. So I'm a jerk like that.
Oh, the poor ghosted producer.
I know. I was like, anybody want to go to Adepticon? And then I went without anybody. So that was. maybe not the nicest thing I've ever done. But I actually hadn't decided to go. I got a work opportunity to go to Chicago, and I decided to go on Wednesday night, and I left Thursday at 1 p.m. Spent the Friday and part of Saturday in Chicago, and then drove to Milwaukee, and then drove home. 15 hours out there and 14 hours back between Thursday and Monday. So that was my schedule. That's how much I love you guys. That's how much I missed you. I drove all that way just to come hang out. And get lost in the new, because I'm used to it being at like Schaumburg. And if you haven't been to Adepticon when it's at the Baird Center, it's cool, but it's like multiple buildings connected by skywalks. And so if you don't know where you're going, it's real easy to kind of get a little confused, and people think that you're homeless or something. Just like, yeah.
Yeah, and they got us way high up this year too. So, even if you get in the building, you're like, where the hell am I supposed to be going?
Yeah, that was kind of it. Although if you find like the big massive hall, then you can find the War Machine players, because you guys are in there with all the Atomic Mass games like Shatterpoint, Legion, MCP, and that hall was just massive. Actually, you know what it kind of reminded me of? It felt a lot like Gen Con, which I won't say is a good thing, because the worst part about Gen Con is like moving your miniatures to the hall, keeping track of your miniatures. You know what I mean? Because it's just so big and so empty and open. It's just kind of a different gig altogether than most conventions are. But it was, Hank does an awesome job. It was still a really, really cool event with a lot of cool stuff. How about that keynote, huh?
Oh yeah. That's big up on the list of news. I guess one last competitive result to mention. When you're assembling national teams, probably what you want to see is your team one of hardened killers conquering all before them. And we had USA team one, which is Brandon, Jake, Cody, Riker, and Brad took the ATC. We had 16 teams total, and they 4-0 swept it.
Oh, that's awesome. I also told those guys not to come home if they don't win.
Oh man, wait, they've been hungry for it for a while. I remember when we were in Germany, USA was top tables against Aussies. We finished second place last year, losing to England in the semis, and then taking second on the podium on record. So, I think there's a crew of guys that have taken a couple of swipes at it and been really, really close. And I know we're really shooting for it. So nice to see them do well.
It's really hard not to root for those guys. All those guys are really good guys, Yeah. And a little bit selfishly, I'd like to see Jake win another one.
Sure.
Yeah. He's been in it long enough. And he's been in the WTC. He's got to probably been to the WTC the most out of anybody.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I would guess
a couple
that's
of years
true.
off, but he's been in most of them.
Yeah. There might be some Europeans or something that I don't know about that have been to more. That's possible. But, like a Woot maybe, or somebody along those lines. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or like Jonas Brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Jonas is still going. Holy cow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. He's always there one way or another.
Yep. So yeah, that's fantastic. That team should do very well. They're also autistic enough as a group that like I expect them to sort of Rain Man their way through it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And they've been putting in the practice and running some really unorthodox stuff.
Tell me more.
What is it? Well, we're seeing Brandon is playing Kane. Jake is obviously playing Shadow Flame. And then Cody, Riker, and Brad are all on Adventures of Discovery. So Cody, who I think 5-1 in the IG qualifier, started playing Old Umbre on the Thursday of Adepticon. Brad
That's
switched.
scary. He went 5-1 on
I
a
think
faction
so,
he
yeah.
started. He started for like 3 days. Obviously, he'd been thinking about the faction quite a bit, right? Like as competitive players do. But that's still very impressive because you don't have any muscle memory for the faction. I mean, you have a lot of War Machine muscle memory, but yeah, Cody is machine.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Brad has been playing Cephalix, aka the Sex Men, which is he definitely left an impression on some people. Like this faction got a slight rework, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's, they're okay." Like Brad left no doubt this faction's pretty devastating.
Yeah, well, I mean, Brad is a very good player, although still have never lost to him. Just saying. We've only played one time though. That might have something to do with it, and I may have to just stay retired so I can continue to lord that over him forever. But
yeah, just keep those positive records intact.
Yeah, I mean, Thexus has always been an amazing caster, only held down by the fact that a lot of the stuff in Cephalix was just pretty good, but it wasn't like, I don't think it was ever really powerful. And they've added some pieces that are pretty good. Like those big chunky medium base boys are pretty good, I think. And then Thexus is such you'd call him like a lever, right? He makes everything better. So yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch any of those games, but like Thexus is he's kind of a monster. So like, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Wait, so I think the faction breakdown was really interesting. And I think what I'd like to do next week is a bit of a metagame snapshot. Cause I feel like where we were at Adepticon with the shape of the metagame is somewhat of a reaction to where we were at Captain Con, with Blake winning with Kishtar against Jake with Lilith, and Riker on Boris, and Kane, and the who's who of the gunline casters. There seems to be a bit of a reaction against that, but we'll say, go ahead.
I just want to say the guy that was 5-0, one listing Decathlus, certainly made a statement about how you can address the game. Like it kind of reminds me of old school Meat Mountain, like same sort of theory, right? Just like chew on this, otherwise lose on scenario, And a lot of lists were not prepared for that gear check, and I heard that. I heard that from several players. Like, he just like ran all his stuff forward, and there was literally nothing I could do about it. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And then the interesting thing is his Decathlus list didn't even look like conventional Decathlus lists. He dumped everything other than what maximized the chew on this value. And effectively one listing, because the other list was just Sepsira in an identical army, like very much return from lock and load of the Lion doesn't concern himself with second lists.
Yeah, it was second listed name only, I think, but that would be pretty interesting. I think you should maybe talk to him just about his thought process. I think you guys would have a good time, right? I think Ryan was going to interview him.
Oh,
yeah, for Spell Rack. So that would be cool.
Nice. Yeah. I know I've met Routh multiple times, and I saw his face, and I just blanking on his actual name.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think one thing that came through, if you look at the top standings, like more than anything, the crazy powerful deciding factor seems to not necessarily be faction, but player skill. There
almost always has been, I think, as far as, I mean, I was on a long break for a while. I don't know what it was like at the end of Mark III or beginning of Mark IV, but player skill is always sort of trumped. Like even a good player with what we would consider to be a really bad list can win a lot of games. and sometimes what we think is a bad list really isn't, but there's been a lot of lists that I've seen that I've been like, I have no idea how that wins. I don't know how it kills anything. And you watch them play and you're like, oh, okay. They just win every game on scenario or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, of the of the 9 players who were 5-1 or better, there are 7 unique factions, and there's a lot of different philosophies going in all these armies too.
That's really cool. And even some of the really good players that were doing well had different takes on the same faction. So there wasn't even like necessarily list cohesion amongst the different factions. I mean, there's a little bit of that, right? Like, I think if you sometimes look at shard lists, you might see a lot of riffs on Jake's lists, right? But I also saw, like, is interesting between you and Andy and then Joe all playing Brines, all having like very different takes on what to play with Brine Bloods. I thought that was very healthy. And that one jumped out at me because I know all you guys, right? And you all have very different ideas on what you want to play. So
oh, hey, we got a Wild Mayhew in the chat. How can I catfish John into thinking he owes me money from WTC 2015?
I mean, I probably do. Wouldn't surprise me. Although, maybe you might owe me money. Actually, I think I organized everything when we went to WTC 15, Mahu. It's possible you owe me money, actually. I think it's actually more likely. Doubtful, but it's possible.
The gaslighting campaign.
Right? Yeah. I should have maybe told people I was going to come hang out, but I kind of came back last minute. So I just decided I started building lists, and Alex is like, you should come on. And I'm like, I should not have gone to Adepticon. That's a bad idea.
You got bit by the bug out again.
Yeah. Well,
you tried to keep yourself clear. We dragged you back in.
I was fine until I watched one game, and I was like, I could play that really, really well. Hey, thank you.
Yeah, the one game you watched, I think the full game you saw over the weekend was Mr. Ryan Chiriboga versus Mr. Matt Hart, and it sounds like it struck some inspiration.
It did, and I think for the record, the only thing we really need to take away from that game is everybody should give Chiriboga crap for counter listing Matt. So 100%, he was playing Tyrus, right? The Dustcaster with that makes everybody ghostly and +2 inches of threat versus the new Kithgard caster, which forget her name, but the one that gives you like an 8 inch line of sight.
Yeah, Malice Rotmorn.
Yeah. Oh, yes, Mahu. You guys, all right, we got to hang out. I mean, we can all be like, we can reminisce over going to WTCs and setting up sound equipment and getting lost in Poland and everything else. But yeah, so anyway, back to that. You guys should all go comment on Ryan's videos when he talks about his game with Matt, because I'm sure he will, and just say, why did you like counterlist him so hard? Because he did. Like, it was like a terrible matchup for Matt. I felt bad for Matt. Literally, it was like, there's not much you can do. Like, he's just pretty much completely countered you, and he did it on purpose. He knew what you were playing. So, yeah, just make sure you guys give him a hard time. He deserves it.
What was the old malapropism from Muzon Minis? You guys used to call that net decking and confused an entire generation of players.
We did, yeah. we definitely did that.
Oh my god, yeah. But I mean, that was not the only SFG game of consequence, because there was the first Iron Gauntlet qualifier of the season was held parallel to the Iron Gauntlet Invitational at Warfare Weekend this year, and Loxham won the whole thing. And
Rich can play, yeah.
He beat my buddy Jake Cooper on the top tables. I was worried when Adepticon started, like, oh, are you did you show up just to win another one of your events?
Can I just say as an aside, how cool is it that the owners of the game play the game? Like I literally,
Mhm.
Rich and Matt were playing all weekend. Jamie plays all the time. Jamie competes at the
Mhm.
WTC. I mean, if you don't doubt that the game is being managed by people that love the game, then I don't think we'll see them do the Privateer Plus blunders of spending all their cash on trying to make a movie, for example,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
or
Various vanity projects or boondoggles.
spinning off into board games and science fiction based board games or whatever. Take your pick. Uh, they love War Machine, and
Mhm.
they love it so much that they talk about it all day. They work in it all day,
Mhm.
and then they play games on top of it. So I think they share our love for it, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, Matt was playing pickup games, Locks was playing in tournaments. You know, Sherwin spent basically the entire weekend running narrative events, and like I don't know if you got to talk to our friend Jay Beatnick out there, but he was
I
so
did.
pumped about the narrative out there.
I did. I got to give him a big hug. Actually, I was kind of hoping he'd be here, but he didn't show up. So now I'm disappointed.
Maybe he's expecting us to run later because we've we've been slotting in at 5:30. Timing just works better for me and Keith. But we got John on, so classic time, classic channel.
Oh, we didn't have to start. I mean, I could have I had things to do. I wasn't even planning
We
on.
could have screwed around for another 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We were
Obviously, no room for a studio in the one bedroom apartment. Also, I I could show you guys this, but literally you can't walk through my living room because I have a small trampoline. And then we saw this beanbag chair at the furniture store. We were like, that looks really comfy. We should buy that. It's massive. It's like bigger than my couch, I think. And so we just literally can't walk anywhere. It's
so if you
ridiculous.
want to get to like the window to let some air in, you've got to like bounce off the trampoline, roll across the beanbag, and then stand up.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. You want me to show you? Here, I will show you. This is what my living room looks like. I don't know. Can you guys see? This is my couch. There's the beanbag and the trampoline
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
my
You're
chair
just
and my
locked
computer desk. Yeah, it's literally like the floor is lava.
out. Oh man. Yeah, so SFG playing games. Actually, before we come to that, let's talk about SFG talking about games, because we had a loaded keynote of the likes we have not had in quite some time.
You know what's crazy? Is Lock and Load EU is in May, and they're keeping some of their powder dry for that. I mean,
Absolutely.
they have to be. There's just no way that they're going to have a Lock and Load in Europe and not announce a bunch of cool stuff. So
Right. Yeah.
I guarantee you there was a lot held back, which is probably why the Protectorate previews were sort of sparse. A
A
little,
little anemic. Yeah.
a little anemic, much to my chagrin. But yeah, I think I might come back for Protectorate. Is what I was thinking. Maybe if I'm feeling better and my work slows down a little bit. We just hired a CIO, so that's good. So that would be cool. But let's talk about the keynote. What struck you, Alex? What were you excited about?
Well, I'm gonna level with you. I actually haven't watched the keynote in its entirety.
What? What?
Yeah, we had reservations in advance for one of my favorite restaurants in the whole world, the Odd Duck in Milwaukee. If you are ever in Milwaukee, you owe it to yourself to go and get dinner there. Their menu rotates all the time, so it's always different, but it's like small plates, family style, and just top-notch food.
Sounds good.
Dinner was what I was told dinner was at 6. I get there, Brandon's like, there's been a huge miscommunication, it's 8:30. So we rocked up on our table, a bit before the keynote started, and we're gorging ourselves, and a couple of guys at the table have like their phones open and they're like headphones in, like recounting to us in real time what's going on.
That actually seems like a better way to watch the keynote, to be honest.
Right. You don't have to suffer through the audio visual issues firsthand. I
Right?
did occasionally catch a glimpse of Jake or Cody's phone. I'm like, boy, that that camera sure is out of focus right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there was a bunch of stuff which I don't necessarily have on the agenda. Announcements about costumery, different accessories, but for me the big take homes are what's going on with the game. Actually, one thing I didn't include on the outline is the press ganger program is coming back.
I mean, really, really smart. Honestly, the press gang program is what built Privateer Press. Like Privateer Press wouldn't even exist without it. So really smart.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've known there's been talk, I think, even since last year's Adepticon, that they're really examining how to do this right. And this year they announced that it's actually going to be coming in partnership with Longshanks, which I think is actually a big deal for a variety of reasons. One, that the event software that everybody in the community uses is being bundled together with the event organizers, as
makes
a
sense.
platform. The other is, I was never in the room where it happened, but one of the reasons I heard that one of the principal reasons that the press ganger program closed down was like untraceability, fraud, and there were a lot of layers of transparency that were missing, and it seems like the technological integration is actually going to be really healthy both for the program and for the community.
For sure.
I can only imagine it's also going to be doing great things for discovering metas, probably a change on the order of, something like what Erica and Andy did with the community finder.
For sure. And I think the key thing about having a press gang program is basically behavior follows incentives, right? So if they build incentives into building community, which is what they're trying to do, then communities get built, and communities foster new blood. New blood fosters health for the game. Health for the game fosters more people spending money. More people spending money fosters them putting more time and development into the game. So it's like a big flywheel that helps everybody. But the core of it has always been the press gang. And I would say, I think a better way to put that is it's one of the pillars. So is the press gang, the quality of the game, right? And by quality of the game, I mean it's just a really, really well-designed game with really well-written rules. And it was a very clean game. And then the cool, it's a pretty awesome fluff-wise, right? You have giant stompy robots, and it's all steam-powered and goggles and arcantrics, and it's just a really, really cool world. So hey, Steven, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. So yeah, I think bringing the press gang back, I mean, if I was going to spend oodles of money on a company and I wanted the company to be successful, it's probably one of the first things I would do. I would bring the press gang back, right? So
yeah, and it's an old brand that's still covered in glory. I mean, I think every community remembers somebody who used to be a press ganger, and even when the program was abolished, once a press ganger, always a press ganger, sort of eternal champions of their community. So it's going to be really good to see those guys get recognition again.
I agree. And there, I don't know if they'll do this. I have no idea. Did they announce how the points are going to work at all, or?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Okay. Anyway,
all I remember is I think Cody saying they're bringing the press gang program back, and then Jake's totally checked out 30 seconds later. Hey, they're bringing the press gang back.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I think I waxed poetic enough about olden days, which is all I can really do since I'm eminently unqualified to talk about the game. So
well, let's talk about the measurable nuts and bolts. I'm just pulling up the blog because honestly can't be bothered to scroll through legions of Facebook posts and talk about the cool toys. So first one up, new super heavies coming into the game. Some of these retrenchments of old characters. So we have Bandit, which is like a pretty deep cut, being Allison Jakes' personal charger in the War Machine Tactics video game. Like,
that's funny.
There's maybe a whole 30 people that get that reference.
Oh, I wanted that video game to be good. You have no idea.
I think everybody did.
It was so disappointing. I wanted that game to be cool, but it sucked.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So got a big chassis upgrade. We got a 4-barreled charger gun. We got Return of Imperatus, and this one is actually getting like, I've seen a lot of people giving this model stink because it doesn't look exactly like Imperatus. Is like, I have some inside thoughts that are like not necessarily kind about that sort of thing, but I mean, like, what did you expect the Jack to do? Just like, oh yeah, take his protein powder and grow. It's like, no, they gotta re-chassis these guys. The Cortex is what makes them what they are. You build them a new body. They won't always look the same.
Well, it still looks like a continuation of the old Red Theme. It's just dark instead of light. And then I guess maybe it doesn't have wings. But can you guess what my first thought was when they announced this, or I saw this? Can you guess what I thought to myself? Come on, you can think about this. You'll figure it out. Alex, I'm disappointed. Who did I send 200 lists about to you?
Oh, yes. I was trying to remember, like, you said it and like, is this a Muse thing? No. What's the base size limit on Hazaroth's feet? Oh, there we go.
Exactly. And then I think they said that he's going to have a new resurrection that takes him out of the action, like it can move him, because it used to be he resurrected with one box in each column or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And then he just immediately died because he
got dunked. Yeah.
Yeah, but now I think he comes back a certain distance away so that you can get the opportunity to defeat with Hazaroth and bring him back to full, which I got a little giddy about. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, that almost got me thinking maybe I could come back and play before Protectorate and play with Imperatus and Hazaroth, and that would probably be pretty good.
Right.
But it didn't quite get me, but it was close. Close.
Hazaroth has a lot of super viable builds now. Like, people are even running him to pretty good success with a Colossal, which his feet does nothing for, but like, he's got cats that you can't ever get out of the way that prevent you from ever getting on the Colossal. So
also, it turns out Escort and Shadowmancer are both fine spells on a Colossal. I mean, not that stealth, but the minus
the
2
dark
armor
shroud,
on it.
meaning it does real numbers on damage.
Well, also on a ginormous base that just covers everything. You're just all of that is minus 2 armor. Congratulations,
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's kick over to the old scuttlebutt. Brian's getting a new character, super heavy. I'm not gonna lie. I often forget that Great Old One and Chum exist often enough that I'm a little worried. But he does seem to have real guns, and boy, is this concept exciting. We have the full carcinization of the dire troll. Like, all of them are returned to Crab. We got the lighthouse. We got the machine gun cannon arm, the big pincer. Like, this guy looks amazing.
Also, just as an aside, how smart are these guys? To me, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I wish they had never come out with Colossals and it was just super heavies, right?
Yeah.
I think the game would be so much better because they're so cool. But anyway, that's a digression we don't need to go down right now. But such a smart direction.
I think both you and I have made this point in the past, particularly as like Colossals returned to the game and kind of having like, oh, I sort of miss before these guys were out.
Yeah, the game is different. It's fine. They're cool models and they're great centerpieces and they draw attention to tables. So I understand from a game company perspective why you would want them, but they also you have to be so careful with their balance because they can warp the game so hard. They're either a little too good and they, kind of tip the game on its head, or they're not worth the points, and then you're just like, my Colossal didn't do anything. It's 40 points down the drain. So it's a tough model to balance.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Old Scuttlebutt looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for this guy, or tentatively excited, just because I have I have so much my expectations are lowered by the character of Brine Blood characters so far, but we'll see.
There's always January. Hope springs eternal.
Maybe they'll be like January.
Maybe they'll be like, you know what? There's not enough chum out there. I want to see somebody smacking people with a shark. So, but he looks cool. And like you said, it looks like he's got big guns. So, I mean, that's kind of the price of admission for super heavies. It seems the ones that have pretty good ranged output, pretty good for the most part. The ones that don't, also useful at times, like Aberration's fine. But yeah.
All right. Well, let's kick over to last but not least, an unheard of character, but we have the Shadow Seraph, which is basically the old-fashioned Seraph but on steroids.
I think that thing looks awesome. I don't know.
It is cool. A lot of wings.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll bring Slipstream back.
It does live in the faction. Lilith 5 does have it on her spell list natively, but it's entirely possible it comes back on this thing too and opens it up to the whole faction.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so this guy, I guess, a bit more of a support model. It's a very cool looking piece, but the number of wings is like almost what you'd make as a satire of Legion beasts. So
I think those guys have a little fun with that sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
like I do think they're like, we'll show them.
we'll show them what real preposterous wings is like.
Yeah, you think that's bad? Oh yeah, this looks pretty sweet too.
Let's kick over to more 80 mils. We have this year's True Merc, this year's app subscription model. We have good old Constance Blazewicz and a re-chassis Gallant. These are very cool looking models. Gallant is the most Visions of Escaflowne Warjack I've ever seen.
Yeah, totally. Look at that shield though. See, this is what I want. I want an avatar with a shield like that. I will be very happy, and I will be all over Protectorate, and it'll be in almost every list.
Yeah.
And I also want Gaze of Menoth to come back because I miss that ability.
Oh, Lottie. That is going to be a terror. Gaze of Menoth is like one of those super underrated control abilities where the effect is really profound with interfering with movement in large sections of the board.
Yep.
So
good.
You know, if that shows up as a Protectorate staple, like boy,
if I get that and Defender's Ward, I'm good, and I wouldn't mind High Reclaimer. But oh, look at that.
Yeah, we got some Kithgard re-reveals. So the Fortress King had its concept art spoiled like maybe 6 months ago. It was a while ago. But we get to see, now a look at the system options, more detailed work on it, a sense of scale for the model. And then Gunbjorn in a tank, which we did see at Lock and Load this year, and which is absurdly coming to a battlefield near you.
He's literally riding a Lehman Russ. That's funny.
Yeah, and still has the rocket launcher.
Yeah, tell me that isn't intentional.
Oh man. Yeah, and then I guess the one thing that wasn't in any of these blogs, and honestly, I didn't feel like scrolling through Facebook posts. But that's the return of the Protectorate of Menoth. We have the Covenant of the Flame coming late this year, I guess. Right after Fane of Nero, aka Dusk Castlevania, finishes dropping.
Those look pretty cool, actually.
They do.
Yeah, and it's kind of a play style that sounds like fun. I mean, they said that the casters will be very frontline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that's cool. But yeah, I mean, I think I I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to. I was talking to Matt and Rich, and they were like, "Yeah, like, why wouldn't we come out with Protectorate? Everybody loves Protectorate. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't we make our fans happy and just?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it's literally. I'm here. Like, yeah, I miss Protectorate, and it's a very different play style, right? So,
Yeah.
and I was talking to Jamie a little bit about it, and he said he had some pretty good ideas to bring the flavor back with some new mechanics. So I'm very interested to see what that's all about. Actually, so interested that I volunteered to playtest. I was like, if you want a playtester who will give you like an old school Protectorate, I mean, I probably have more reps with Protectorate than a lot of people. How's that?
Mm.
So I played a lot of Protectorate with a lot of different casters in a lot of different ways. So, but yeah, that would be really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big. It's going to be interesting to see how much the magic is recaptured. Because Protectorate had a lot of really signature mechanics and play style at the time that was like this, this very strong but gradual offense, backed up by lots of denial mechanics, that it didn't connect the fastest, but it connected securely.
Protectorate, I always described like well designed Protectorate lists as tying a knot for your opponent to untie. It's very satisfying when you tie that knot really well because it's a matter of positioning and layering different nothing that's overtly powerful. I mean, Gaze of Minoth pretty overtly powerful, but there's a lot of things like, no shooting unless it's magical weapons and enliven, and then, no casting spells with the book or no knockdown, no stationary. And pretty soon you like have all of these like stacking effects, and the sum of its parts is much greater than any of the individual parts. You're just like, oh, that by itself doesn't seem that powerful or that great, but you add everything together and pretty soon you're just like, you're tied in a knot. and
Mhm,
and
mhm,
I enjoy that part of the game, and sort of playing that catcher's mitt of forcing your opponent to engage with you on your terms. It's
mhm.
very satisfying, but it's kind of an unusual, like, it's kind of a difficult play style to put into a miniatures game. I'm not sure I've played any other miniatures games that quite capture how Protectorate played. It was like Denial, but it wasn't like Counterspell. It wasn't like
Mhm.
I just stop you from doing something. It was more like I've like layered a bunch of stuff to make your life complicated, and
Right.
yeah, which I enjoy.
Right. There's I mean, this obviously comes well after the advent of, Protectorate of Menoth in 2003. But it's really interesting that Privateer Press and now Steamforged seems to have by and large dodged much of the hexproof problem in Magic the Gathering. If you're familiar with
Yeah,
that, like you introduce a mechanic that stops things cold in their tracks on a pure technological level, and then you introduce counter tech that bypasses the original technology, and it's like, remove hexproof from targets, and then like, has hexproof, cannot be removed. Like,
I know.
you
Yeah,
just get in this back and forth layer. Versus Protectorate, while they said like, no guns, no spells, it was always conditional, or it was like wrapped up in layers where you had to sequence or forego, and then it was heavily positioning based, particularly in the case of abilities like Enliven. um so I think that the positional aspect of War Machine is so important into what makes this game great. Because it is obviously appealing to, like hobbyists like Magic the Gathering players because of this comboing, this intense mechanical theming, but like this really is a game of positioning, and so much of the distinctive feel can be in positional interactions like Protectorate of Menoth. What do you think?
100%. As a matter of fact, I remember having discussions, and this was way back, early Mark II. I abused people with Enliven all the time, and people got really good at countering Enliven, and I got really good at countering the countering with positioning. I mean, I got Keith so bad one time because he thought I had boxed my model in, because looking at the table, it looked like the choir had stopped me from enlivening, but I had created an S channel that my Jack could walk around in an S shape around all of the models, but you wouldn't really be able to see that unless you stood directly over it and looked down, right? So it just looks like it's blocked, because there's just enough room to squeeze the base through, right? I had practiced this at home because I knew I was going to get I was going to get Keith with it, right? And I got him because he was like, okay, well, that guy's pinned, so I don't have to do anything. So I guess I just get to kill your avatar. And I'm like, yeah, go for it. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to trigger Enliven. And I said, I think there's room for my base to walk around like this in an S shape. He's like, it's a trap, you son of a... He was so mad. I only got him once on that, but it was well worth it. But it's just an illustration of there's a lot of ways that you can position in a way to make Enliven very live. And it's such a, like, if somebody is trying to trade for your heavy, it's a pretty heavy commitment. You know what I mean? And if they lose that commitment due to Enliven, it's game swinging. You can definitely swing the game in your favor because suddenly you didn't lose a heavy, and so suddenly you're like trading but not trading. And you're just like, oh, you just gave me a heavy, or whatever, a unit of cav or something relatively expensive. So that's pretty fun. And I want more of that play style. So if Protectorate has a lot of that, then yeah, probably all over it.
Well, coming full circle onto before we talked about the keynote, you watched a full game of War Machine with a certain new faction that was not Protectorate, and it started firing the old noggin. So talk to us about the game you watched and what got you fired up.
I was just like, oh, I could abuse somebody really bad with this caster because of the the different things that you can layer on. And it was the I don't even know the name yet. The Kithgard caster with the feet rolling mist, right? What's her name?
Yep, Malice Rotmorn.
Rotmorn. She has such an, I mean, she's Fury 8 and Arcane Attack 8. And then her spell list is bonkers. It is literally bonkers. But I mean, it's so much, there's so much depth to the things that you can do because you can project force with the trapdoors without having to actually commit anything. You're sort of threatening stuff without risking it, which is pretty cool. You have the 5-inch no spells bubble, which is not very big, but also very easy to put in the middle of your opponent's stuff and screw a bunch of stuff up. Like you literally can say, go ahead.
It's not like a model that they can like shoot off the board or throw away. It's just sitting there and there ain't nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And then she can place a cloud anywhere, which has always been powerful, right, with Veil of Mist. And then she's got a spell that like blinds and leaves a cloud effect below it.
That also blinds when you stand in it.
Or enter it, right? So it's not so much. So what's really cool is you can shoot something to blind it and kill it and leave this cloud that like screws up a bunch of charge lanes for stuff, right? Or you could leave that cloud and then drop a Veil of Mist and basically block line of sight to a whole portion of their army, because now you've created a mini cloud wall, and so now they can't see anything to charge it. She's got a damage buff and a hit buff with Hand of Fate. She has Blessed on a stick, so even if her stuff doesn't hit particularly hard, it's not like you're going to get priced out of killing things, because there's no buffs that are going to survive that bother you, right?
As a side note, Eye of Dunya gives magical and blessed, and models gain eyeless sight when they target the model/unit. I heard a number of conversations pointing out, like, as written, the way this spell works kind of doesn't make sense, and Steamforged has essentially come back with a ruling of, yeah, it says models gain while attacking target model, they gain eyeless sight. What this actually means, like, because this wording as such doesn't necessarily make sense, what this clause essentially means is they ignore concealment and clouds and stealth,
which is great. I mean, she just has a lot of tools, and what I like is her ability to layer those tools in a lot of different ways. I mean, she's got a 16-inch control area. And
she's only 14, so she's a little odd for an Arc 8 caster.
Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting that control area can be different than double your focus. Or double your fury. My bad.
It's still very good and probably quite generous based on how she wants to run her game plan.
Yeah. She has the ability to have arc nodes wherever she wants that you really can't stop. You can't engage them and stop them from arcing or anything. And so it's just it's pretty interesting. And then, her feat is incredible for scenario play. So I don't know. And then she has access to Enliven. Oh yeah, she's got admonition too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's another thing that probably feels quite familiar.
Yeah, so you have Enliven, admonition, clouds, no spells. You have a feat that says basically you can't interact with me for a turn, or you can make it difficult to interact with you in a meaningful way for a turn. That's table wide, so it's not like it's very easy to play with. You project force without having to give anything away. Like, you're just like, I have these trapdoors, so I can bring something big and scary out of them if I choose to. So you have to play around that. And again, it sort of got me thinking about, you can tie some pretty intricate knots and really screw up your opponent's plans, because if you drop a couple clouds to screw up half of their charge lanes, shoot a couple things off the table, and drop that no spell bubble into where their caster would want to be to try and deal with it, you can create situations that are just like a headache to deal with. And you can kill whatever you want. I mean, the blind plus Hand of Fate is like kind of a wombo combo, and being Arcane Attack 8, she's going to get those to land even in the most extreme circumstances. I kind of wish the blind spell was just a cloud effect that you placed and made everything blind in it,
rather than offensive and being contingent upon opponent positioning.
Yes, but that's probably too good. It probably started there, to be honest with you. And they probably quickly realized, no, people are going to abuse the living daylights out of this. I guess, yeah. The other thing is, like, you could fire 2 of those off and drop a cloud,
Right, because she's still got the stack for it.
She's got the stack for it. And then you have whatever. Not Black Penny.
Lucky Penny.
Lucky Penny. So, so there's you could just build like a generalist list and do a lot of fun stuff, and there's a lot of room for experimentation with that. So I was watching them play it. I was just like, oh man, I could play the living daylights out of this. Like, just the living daylights out of this. I agree, Stephen Williams, 100%. Although, to be honest with you, in what I was thinking about, I could literally play this list I was thinking of without ever using a trapdoor, right? literally just the threat of it is enough.
So it's interesting because you got captivated by a very protectorate-y style of play in this faction. And when I've looked at Kithgard, I'm immediately fascinated by Tarja Grimtusk or
For sure.
Abraham Stormcraw.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're very much up my alley. Like, doing that crazy punch in, hit and run, like dive deep on somebody. And you've I suppose after a certain point, we all extract, a certain preference for play after our own particular idiom. And you've wound up at you've wound up, because Malice Rotmorn was not in my immediate sphere of consideration. While she has an obviously very powerful feat, my mind immediately went elsewhere.
No, and that's all play experience, right? Like I spent a lot of time tying knots, so I recognize when you have the opportunity to tie a lot of interesting knots. Hey, there's a Wild J Beatnik. Welcome back. I got to see you this weekend, so that was awesome.
There we go. He's
Yeah.
unpacking his models. Glad you got home safe, Jeff.
Indeed.
And
Indeed.
really great to see you over the weekend.
I'm glad that you put up my least favorite version of the list that I built, but it's the one I thought was interesting.
Keith, change list. Keith, change
no,
list.
No, that's okay. This is fine. I think a lot of people would look and see Chomper and be like, what is Chomper doing in there? That's terrible. And I don't know that I would necessarily disagree with you. For 17 points, you're not getting a lot, but he does tunnel ambush, which is pretty darn cool. So the way that I would use him is you could flank one of the trapdoors and aggressively move it up to drop him off on feet turn, so that even if something can get to him, like there's not a lot that threatens him. Like your opponent has to be ranging out pretty far to be within 8 inches of an outside placement of him, and then suddenly you've got him flanked on like a far flank, and then you have the ability to protect him in ways if you choose to, like dropping a random cloud, or whatever. He's very durable, and so like I was just thinking, the combination of like trapdoors on the outside allowing you to go either direction, and he could be your contesting piece on your opponent's side of the board on whatever they're weak, right? And then if you have to, you can augment his protection with just a couple clouds, or dropping a blind cloud on another cloud, cutting off avenues for them to come after him, and just allowing him to play a bully on an outside objective. But the thing is, you don't ever have to send him in to do that. Like, you literally just let the game sort of come to you, right?
Yeah. He doesn't have to pre-commit anywhere.
He doesn't have to pre-commit it anywhere, and he's still a heavy, right? So he can still do work. So I mean, I guess if it comes down to it, is he an efficient point cost beater heavy? No, not really. But he does allow you to threaten something. Also, he allows you to threaten just dropping him off in the middle of, something your opponent really cares about. Like the trapdoor becomes sort of a no-fly zone, right? Or it could.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of his offenses, this ain't a 17-point heavy. Yeah, sure, he's got 4 initials and they're okay hit values. The damage is not 17 points worth, and he doesn't really have any crazy oomph. And if you think about this guy coming out of a hole and doing damage, the cost isn't there. And if you think of his defensive profile, it's like, it's okay. But when you think about this guy coming out unfazed with essentially no opportunity for counterplay at, the back distant objective, like an opponent's 50 mil or something on payload, or, just pick your piece of distant geometry. And the current scenario packet has many of this guy coming out full health and saying, You got to deal with me now. And I'm sort of just armed 21. Like the 17 points isn't even necessarily like his defensive stats. It's his scenario presence, which, I mean, feel free to correct me if this was not your impression, but what I've seen so far of Kithgard is like they play surprisingly little on the table. Not that they need to, but that their initial board footprint feels kind of small.
It can. I'm not sure I would play them that way. I think I'm of the opinion at least in this list, I run one element so that the trapdoors are a threat, right? So your opponent has to play around them and think about them. Starting with more elements than that off the board, you kind of run into the same problem that I think Gravedigger players have run into, which is starting with too much off the board can put you on your back foot. Now, what's cool about her is you have a feat to make sure you're not on your back foot. You know what I mean? Like your feat literally says, I don't have to start on my back foot if I don't want to. You're just like, whatever. I'll just stand 8.1 inches away from your lines, and yeah, you might come shoot me with a few things, but whatever, I don't really care. The other thing, I forgot to mention too, she has Hunter's Mark too, so which is pretty cool for Chomper in the backfield, because then you can get it. Like he's got a respect. Like one of the mopiest things about him is his threat range is just not good, but you give him a free charge and an extra 2 inches, and now he's doing real work. And Hunter's Mark is like a range 10 spell, and you've got arc nodes all over the place. So there's that. So anyway, I think, Chomper's kind of an interesting model. It's not like an incredible model, but I like it. The Jungle Troll with the Thumper Cannon, I think is just a solid piece. It's a little expensive at 9 points. But it is a rat.
Unlike a lot of other, expensive shooting lights, this one has its pick of the litter of 2 really substantial guns and some incredible abilities to go along with those guns, either the +1 rat and Swift Hunter or ignore clouds
and
and because it's a tree walker, also forests. So, you're essentially looking at a troll that ignores everything except for obstructions and models, which is kind of amazing when you're carrying a slam gun like that.
Yeah, and I also have a version of the list that runs 2 of those guys, one with the slug gun too, because it's just range 12, D3 volley fire, does a lot of work, especially if you give it the Rat 6 version so that you're hitting. And again, the cool thing about Rotmorn is she can fix defense for anything. It's like, okay, I'll blind that. You're -4 to your defense. Or I'll hand to fade it. I'll do both. So you auto hit and, well, I mean, not necessarily, but pretty close to auto hit. And, and do a lot of damage. Right. So, I don't know. What are you thinking, Alex? Am I like crazy?
Are you crazy for liking the Jungle Troll? I don't think so.
No. Am I crazy for like even just building this list?
So it's like I said, it's not the kind of list I build by instinct, but I see the pattern here. I see what's going on, and I'm not displeased. So like let's get deeper into it and talk sort of the vision that evokes the feel. So we're rounding out with we got Clanger, who's just a big tough stick in the mud.
Yep.
Has respectable enough offense and just gets the heck in the way. And then we got a Mistborn that's rocking Hardhead, Backcannon, Ice Cleaver, Bucklered Fist. So again, decent offense, quite good armor here, being essentially a 12-20.
Well, actually, I think the offense is actually better than decent. Because it's POW 19 base. Yeah. And remember, I can ignore all of your buffs. I don't care. I can get Hand of Fate. Like, I can get a free charge. That thing pretty much will kill whatever I want it to. If I want it to kill something. Like, with with an investment, admittedly, of resources, but that's what those resources are there for. So,
Right. Yeah.
and then the POW 13 gun is not nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that adds up, especially. Uh, that's interesting, Raya Visa. I think the list does more work than you think.
Yeah, let's dig into the rest of it, because
Yeah,
I think it's going places.
yeah. So yeah, it's got 3 heavies and a light, which you kind of need if you're going to
Mm-hmm.
feed Fury 8. You can't like lose a beast and suddenly not be able to like, you know, get your Fury. That's never a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Grindstone's very important. He gives you a reroll. A lot of what you're counting on is your offensive spells hitting, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he also gives shield guard to the Carapace guys. Kind of
Right.
funny.
And especially as the game devolves into a bit of a rumble, one of the obvious, like, a lot of people don't necessarily look as deep as, like, okay, I see the obvious combos for this caster, and here's the shtick that they front with. But most people don't think into, like, second order consequences. So somebody like Rotmorn has the tools to delay action for at least 2 turns, but there's a certain point in the game where it doesn't matter how much you delay, a rumble is just inevitable, and you can't count on having clouds forever.
Yep.
And Grindstone's other abilities, and the fact that he has just multiple Rad 7 shots, really come into the fore as you get later into that game plan and beyond your first level of technologies. Like, particularly, it seems to me At All Costs is something you start throwing on steelbacks when Rotmorn is no longer able to commit like the 4-6 Fury personally bunkering herself.
Yep. Well, and I don't think I'm ever going to be committing a lot of Fury bunkering herself. Like she's going to be in the rear with the gear a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, steelbacks are incredible.
Yeah.
They are just they're just an incredible value for 9 points. Like, holy crap. Like, they have every role you would want. They have Carapace, so you can't really shoot them off the table. And they actually play a very important role on the list, which is Protect and Liven. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I don't know if people really understand, but when you put 2 steelbacks around a heavy, but they're sort of just shaded to the front, so the heavy has it can walk backwards as much as it wants, and you can't get line of sight to place your models when you charge the heavy, right? So you can't box in because you have to have line of sight in order to do that. So you can't box in the enlivened model. Now you have a heavy that, like Clangor, who's got a big
Mm-hmm.
gun, who's doing a lot of damage, like two boosted POW 15s is going to leave a mark every turn, can charge in and do a lot of damage with a free charge. So it's threatening that at a pretty long distance. So you just have you just create this situation where, yeah, sure, you can remove the steelback and then charge in and box in the enlivened model, but that's a lot of resources to try and figure that out, and that's not easy because you can't just shoot them off the table. I mean, you could, I guess, but that's a lot of resources.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And you can do the same thing with admonition too, right? Sort of like a mini enliven.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, because you've sort of got this you know I think you actually have like a viable enough presence of units that you're not necessarily giving up the board. You can reserve tricks if you want them. But what's special is you have Enliven plus Admonition to pick up where that first layer of denial drops off, and say, okay, I don't have, we got Chomper or, whatever you want to run as a variation on this, hanging out in the back lines and really playing for scoring. And then my front line of like a couple of heavies is incredibly slippery to get to grips with. And like, you're deliberately making decisions that makes that level of slipperiness harder and harder to confront. So we're talking about line of sight denial by moving through your own models. The fact that both of them can have some sort of defensive reactive move that lets them get out. That both your frontline heavies are genuine work heavies and not to be trifled with.
And they're both very durable, right?
Yeah,
they are not like lightweight.
They're
light
not
in the
slouches where like, oh, they're just 10, 18, and if I hit them, they're gone.
Yeah. So I do think it's interesting that you think I don't do enough work, but you have to understand the flow of the game. I've got enough powerful guns that I can shoot things off the table every turn. I don't have to shoot off a lot, but I can shoot off a heavy pretty easy if I want to, without a lot of reprisal after the feat turn. Like there might be some, but or even if I can't shoot off a heavy, I just shoot off some front models, whatever. I don't have to take a lot every turn. I just have to start wearing you down and blunting. Like what happens a lot of times when a list like this is played well, it's like standing in quicksand and your opponent doesn't really understand that they're going to drown. But I'm getting small incremental value every turn by shooting some things off or forcing you to commit something, and then your commitment doesn't go the way you want because of enliven or admonition, or forcing you to overcommit, just to try and get something done. And then, okay, fine, you managed to pin my armor 22 heavy in. I hope you kill it. Oh, you failed to kill it because you had to spend a bunch of resources trying to pin it in. Like there's a lot of moving parts, and it sort of creates a game state where I'm also blocking off your charge lanes with models that are with clouds that will blind you. Or, maybe I charge in, but before I charge in, I shoot the blinding clouds on something so that in order for you to charge me back, half your models are going to be blinded. And then maybe I block it off with some other models so that the only way you can get frontage on me is going into the cloud that blinds you. So you're -4 mat. Have fun with that. There's a lot of ways that I can screw with you in a really, really bad way. And then I can always, just because I can put a lot of work into your army, just take things from you, right? Where I'm actually pretty hard to shoot. If you look at the list, what do you shoot at? You shoot at the Carapist guys? You shoot at the armor 21 or armor 22 heavy? Okay. Have fun with that. Like,
right.
It will get you places eventually, but that's not a quick game. And remember, I have my feet, so you're gonna lose a turn of shooting at me if I'm playing properly, right? So,
and this is to say nothing of the fact that you can generate your own clouds and potentially just block line of sight altogether to this army. That you're also between Clanger and the back cannon, which, while not a great gun, costs 0 and is certainly not nothing. And then Kithgard infantry just firing mortars like every turn, sort of behind the army or behind the wall. Like,
well, remember, all I have to do is drop Hand of Fate on something, and it's probably going to die because I have the Thumper gun, which is POW 14. 2 boosted POW 15s off Clanger, a boosted POW 13 off the back cannon guy, plus any number of POW 12 sprays or the mortars. And because of the way that Hand of Fate works, you're going to get these crazy spikes on rolls, and stuff's going to die. Like,
right.
Yeah. So anyway.
And I suppose that's something to mention too, which is like, again, the pace of the game in this list is very, very different. Like, you can say you're not necessarily going to do a ton of work, but like, unlike a lot of armies, this army's plan is not to do it all at once because you're essentially making the game as slow as possible. Like, turn 1, nothing happens because nothing happens on turn 1. And, I can drop some incidental clouds to make sure nothing really, really happens. Then turn 2, I either engage in some counter positioning or feat. and nothing happens. And then, turn 3, if I haven't feeded already, I do that. Otherwise, I, play keep away and, dump my token difficult to remove ambushers into your backlines, and nothing happens. And by the way, all this time that nothing is happening, I'm shooting at you very modestly. And the second you start to come into my heavies, maybe on 3, probably on 4, they're just going to play keep away with you.
Well, and I'm going to make it hard for you to like get to my heavies, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually interesting. I didn't know you could destroy LOS blocking terrain with the mortar. I have to look at that. I guess I missed that. I just generally
the pig mortar, not the Kithgard infantry mortar, but the pygmy mortar has the same star action as a flamethrower on the jungle troll. Just the difference is their gun is range 14. So they can just pick a forest and turn it into a burning earth cloud.
So this is the mortar that's on the back of the heavy, the Mistborn?
No, this is it's a 2-point solo, the mortar team, as opposed to the mortar on the Kithgard infantry.
All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to put you in charge for a minute. You talk for a second.
Okay. To Multra, M Ultra. The pig mortar. One of the things that players have been hyper cognizant of since last year, and I feel this is only intensified, is making sure you have enough models of the right types to play the game in a sustained way. And you look for opportunities to add or realize value on top of getting your solo count, your unit count, etc. right. The pig mortar is great because because it is reasonable value for a reasonable contribution off a 2-point model. And then the utility ability to also just nope out forests is actually pretty incredible. And to do so, securely and sustainably. If you really wanted to, you could ensure that there were no forests on the board in pretty short order, even with just one.
That's actually a good point. That's probably going to have to come into the list. Well, remember, I can ignore the cloud with just Dunia's Blessing or whatever it's called. So, kind of interesting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You have native synergy that can play well with it. Well, this is why we prototype stuff too, right?
Yeah. I mean, this list is not in any way tuned. I don't know anything about the meta. I don't know anything about matchups. I've not played a single game with it. It is all theorycraft, but I find that my theorycraft is usually decent, But like I said, this isn't even my favorite version of the list. It's just I'm going to make Chomper work because Cosmo said it was bad. So that's a little bit into my psyche, right?
Sure. Oh man. Well, let's Keith, do you have the second variation pulled up?
This list I like a lot better.
Okay, so we're still in the space of experimenting with very Menoth-like dynamics. So we see Chomper come out, we see a Virager come in, which frees up a lot of points, and then let's scroll down and see the rest of this sucker. So we do get Lieutenant Frag Thornbane in there. I think we lose a solo of some sort. I don't remember. And then we also pick up we lose the medics and we pick up throat cutters.
Yep.
So go for it.
A couple of things. One, the Virager adds a very interesting element to this list in the we're playing keep away kind of game, in that it's really good at pulling something in so that you can kill it without overcommitting. Right. And it also creates a situation for your opponent where they're like, oh, well, I guess I have to screen my heavies. Cool. Now I'll put these blinding clouds in front of your heavies. It kind of feeds the game plan in some ways. And it's like a pretty good heavy. It's not great. It's very durable and kind of a pain in the ass.
Interesting. Because my play experience with the Virager is that it's an incredibly good beast, and it's probably even better and more transformative to Kithgard than it is to Brine Bloods.
Mm-hmm.
And Brine Bloods, they're amazing.
Yeah. Well, also, if you think about paralyzing gaze with those flamers that are on the, we didn't even talk about that. The big heavy dudes, the whatever silverbacks, I don't remember what they're called.
Yeah, the
but
steelbacks.
The steelbacks. In that you get two sprays, and I think they start at rat 5 or 6.
Yeah, base rat 6, veteran leader up to 8, and then paralyzing gaze to 9.
Yeah, well, paralyzing gaze to 8, and then veteran leader to 9.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, so now you've got rat 9 sprays, and they're I don't know if you saw the little symbol up there. They're unstoppable, so they literally just walk out of combat. And they also have dual attack, so if you want to, you can charge and attack with them, and kill some stuff.
Yeah, it's the Virager's mobility also, and the fact that you're playing a keep away strategy and you add to that mix a drag gun. Like, even if the Virager has to go out and reach to take something, for a defensive denial army like this, it's actually very easy to pivot your formation around where the Virager is and has just extracted value and say, this is the new no-go zone, which is a pretty cool twist and variation.
Also kind of interesting to think of stupid human tricks you could do with the Virager, pull something in, kill it, and then like Admo it. Just to, like, force your opponent to be like, I mean, there's this, I don't know. I think I agree with you. I think the piece is really good, and I think it's a lot stronger than having Chomper in there. I don't know that you need the solo for the, like, that 6 points could be anything.
Sure.
Also, we never talked about the Scrappers. I think they're an incredible counterpunch unit. So I like to keep them in the rear as the I clear off the stuff that comes in to try to come into you, because they absolutely smash stuff. They have assault. So you charge with 3 of those guys into a heavy, and you fire all their shots first. One of them's going to hit and knock it down, and then they all have trash. So you're just like POW 13 Weapon Master, okay. And I think that's just as a counter punching unit and a late game unit, like, they're going to do a lot of work.
So your intention, it sounds like, is actually start with these guys on the board. Is that right?
I probably would, but I have the option to utilize them if I want to, depending on scenario, matchup, whatever.
Well, and the beautiful thing about the tunneling mechanics is, like, even if you opt to start them on the board, you can call an audible and just shove them in a tunnel marker and change the decision.
Yep.
Like, that's a very neat thing about this faction, is like, you can retroactively make the decision to ambush. It's not a one and done, and it's not a forever. Oh, hey.
Hi, Erica. How are you? Good to see you.
So you guys returned home alive after after that long weekend. When I got back into Phoenix, I was like barely human.
I believe it.
Like Monday, I took a lot of cameras off Zoom meeting, like just laying in bed and just like, please, body, don't die.
Yeah, the other thing I think is kind of cool, I think it's worth mentioning for the throat cutters, and the reason why I kind of like them is they're a pretty low commitment. But they threaten casters pretty good, just with their shots, because they're POW 14, POW 16. If you blind and Hand of Fate a target, then it's kind of like POW 18, like 4 or 5 POW 18 shots to the face, which means people have to be very careful with their casters around the manholes. I do have a question. Can you move those manholes more than once a turn?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you have rattles and some tunnel rats, the only restricting factor is how many essentially how many models you can get in range of a tunnel marker to move it.
Wait, does hand of destruction not work on units? Why not? Is it only cohort models? Did they change that?
It might be cohort or battle group. Let's find out. Hand of destruction. Friendly models in this model's battle group gain an additional die on attack and damage rolls against the.
That's fair. Yep. I don't think it used to be that way. I think it used to be everywhere, but I might be wrong. I could be misremembering.
I honestly have no idea. I've got like Mark 1 and Mark 2 and Mark 3 brain, so I couldn't tell you.
Right? Yeah. Also, throat cutters can just do work. I mean, Snapfire, you're just like, yeah, you know. I mean, 8 inches is not huge, but
but there are a 5-man unit that when they come out of the tunnel are either making 5 high quality attacks into a tough target or up to 10 quality attacks into low value guys.
Yeah.
Like that volume of attacks that comes onto the table, like perfectly delivered, no danger every time, is actually kind of astonishing.
It is quite good. And like I said, there's a lot of uses for it. So fine, you can't use Hand of Fate, but still, if I blind your caster, you're not going to want to take a bunch of POW 16s plus whatever else I can line up, right? And so it does sort of, it just creates situations, right, where those manholes are like, like I don't want these guys to pop out and kind of ruin my whole, like it could ruin an entire plan for somebody. You know, like if you clear out a bunch of backfield chaff, right? Like the babysitters that are on the back objective, these guys just, you know, you move the manhole forward, they pop out, they have 8 inches range, and they just like pop, 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 everything's dead, and you're like, oh, I guess my plan is all gone to heck.
Well, I think this is something that like people kind of get overly attached to, is like having their core dynamo fire off and, you know, like presenting a unified front of like, I have XYZ combo, I am doing this thing, versus having reasonable combo potentials and doing either what you called stupid human tricks or just like creating situations where you're creating, because the advantage of building situations is that you're not strategically locked in. You have a bunch of little tactical tools that you can cobble together into different strategic configurations, and it gives you more and more opportunity to respond and more agency in the game, especially if one approach, you know, doesn't leave you in a position of much agency.
Yeah. Also, them randomly having Snapfire, like,
yeah, oh hell yeah,
with a what is it, Rat 7 POW 16 attack, like at least, well, okay, things within 5 inches. So admittedly,
I mean, their range is 8, which is small, but you also have a Virager in the list, and you have a lot of control over where those trapdoors go. So if you draw the fight to a place where you're getting paralyzing gaze and sneak attack, they're like terrifyingly accurate with no caster intervention whatsoever.
Yep. It might be right to play with 2 units of those. I'm not sure. And maybe tunnel rats make sense, because a unit of tunnel rats can really move a tunnel quite a bit. Yeah. Because each model can activate and move it, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think there's probably a third variation in there where we go for tunnel rats and more throat cutter presence. I don't know what you cut to get the second unit of throat cutters in, but if you're not thrilled about
the solo, you can cut.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're not thrilled about Frag Thornbane, he's an easy way to make room for tunnel rats, certainly bare minimum. Stu 42L is also making the point, it's even further if the first 2 destroy in place before you move. So like you use things like snap up a tunnel marker, remove it, place a new one down. And then you have 3 guys that are like quasi within range to
move it.
To move it almost 9 inches, but realistically more like 7-ish. But that's still a lot of sudden movement on a marker that just came down.
Although I guess you can't ambush out of it unless you're the bro that does the instant ambush.
Craghorn.
Yeah.
Even so, I feel like, if you're, there's also, it is situations and developing options. If you have tunnel markers that are projecting threat and moving to project threat over the course of the game, or you've staked a claim around a tunnel marker, and you're like, the fight's happening here no matter what, so you have to give me something. Like, it's not like you're playing with just one.
It's true.
I think one of the things that's going to really reward practice is simulating, various contingencies and essentially running multiple plans at once. And, your opponent is just, they're not necessarily countering it. They're just choosing which of these strategies you get to pursue.
Yeah. I haven't wrapped my head around abusing the tunnels, but I'm pretty sure like anything can pop out of a tunnel that goes into a tunnel, right? So you can just send a heavy downstairs.
It is constrained to warrior models. Only warrior models can enter the tunnels unless they have a rule that says otherwise.
Is that true? Okay.
Yeah. It's on the trapdoor. A friendly faction non-leader warrior model / unit that ends its normal movement and base contact with a friendly trapdoor can go into the tunnels. So an interesting thing I think is that Chomper can ambush out of a tunnel, but he cannot enter the tunnels from the table.
Got it.
Yeah, and even Tarja Grimtusk has she gives her lights ambush and tunnel ambush, but they can only start off the board and come up from tunnels. They can't go back in.
By the way, that seems like that would be really good with a thumper. You're just like, surprise. That's scary. A knockdown gun that can just pop out of anywhere, be Rat 6.
Yep. Yeah. Rat 8, even if it gets within 5 of you.
Oh, yeah, because it gets sneak attack.
Ugh.
That seems good.
Yep. Yeah, actually, so I want to ask you a question, because you saw a game and you were definitely under the impression that Chiriboga net decked Mr. Hart.
100%. There's no doubt about it, and everybody should give him a hard time for it. That's my opinion.
Just responding to Flat Tooth real quick. The hard thing with Tarja is that control 12. As neat as the different heads are on the light, there is a solution for you, and it is called Headband, that gives extended control area
and sidestep, which is
pretty hot.
A fabulous ability. Like, holy cow! Sidestep is one of those all timers. I mean,
especially when you're counting on a gun plan and your light pops up, sneak attacks somebody with a dorky little dagger, and then extends its sneak attack range 2 more inches, either with its machine gun or with its thumper cannon. Just for the bonus of also killing a random guy.
The other thing I find kind of interesting to think about is, do those trapdoors cause your opponents to try and like surround it so that you don't use it? In which case, are they lining up a bunch of like stuff for you to like drop a couple clouds and completely screw up their game? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of like play and counterplay. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's a lot of it's optionality, like in a way that Gravediggers kind of have with their light airdrops and their heavy airdrops. Any specific use case is probably worth the points that you're sinking into those cards. But what makes them really remarkable is how not committed they are in advance. And your opponent really has, like, I say your opponent because I'm used to fighting a lot of Gravediggers and not necessarily putting myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
But like the Gravediggers player has a lot of resources that are not committed to looking a particular way until the opportunity presents itself. And I feel like both the ambush potential and even the very use of the markers themselves also lends themselves this way.
I agree. Yeah. I'm just thinking. That's what's fun is I find Kithgard to be very stimulating to think about because they're a lot different and they seem pretty powerful. Like a lot of their casters do really interesting things.
Right.
Uh,
And they're quite diversified too. Many of them play around with the ambush mechanic, in different ways, but like I haven't encountered any two casters that I would say occupy the same niche other than maybe Grimtusk and Stormcraw. And even then they're like, you just close your eyes and imagine how these forces operate. And it's like, they're bringing a similar set of tools, but they look like they operate quite differently in practice.
well, I mean, Grimtusk is the one that has Shadow Pack, right?
Yeah, Shadow Pack.
I mean, she can make a heck of a stealth spam.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, especially when you have a heavy that can bring concealment that itself will get stealth from her, and then a solo that says also warriors within 10 inches of me gain prowl, so we can fire off an all stealth army. I think one of the really crazy things for her is actually Crimson Ballet on her spell card.
Yes. Yes.
Frogs with sprint is bananas.
Yep.
A walking, leaping drag model that also gets to sprint is like, that's patently absurd. And she brings independent ways to juice them. So they're already self-buffing with Paralyzing Gaze. They can pay for Flaming Fist to make their power decent. And then you can stack Carnivore and Rage on top of that to make like your Mat 9 POW 20 12-point heavy that also walks and drags and jumps and sprints.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think I'd probably end up at Tarja as like a good second list. Is probably where I would start because of sprint.
Yeah.
Sprint is literally the most fun you can have playing heavies, or even right. But
well, so there's man, so it's interesting to like talking about okay, your immediate calling is to Malice Rotmorn and re-exploring the sort of protectorate positionally layered denial game, which I think you've made a compelling case for. There's I've said that Grimtusk and Stormcraw bring similar sets of tools, but probably use them pretty differently. This is almost like where we've said that Gravediggers does have a lot of optionality, which is to their credit. One of the areas where they fall down is their caster stable, in that they have Sparkhammer, Cynthia Roscoe, Buck Hasker, and who's the other one? McCoy. Boom Boom McCoy. All of those casters have somewhat different sets of tools that they basically use to the same sum total effect. So like Gravediggers has like 4 casters that are the same caster. And sort of the weakness of their pairings boils down to that you essentially can't build pairs around most of your best casters being near carbon copies. And it seems like it seems like Kithgard can probably run like a Rotmorn and a Grimtusk, or a Craghorn and a Stormcraw, or probably even a pretty convincing Grimtusk Stormcraw pairing. Like the similarity is there, but it's not embedded in a way that's like a hindrance like it is in Gravediggers. It's more of a help. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah, and then I mean, there's also a ton of unexplored territory in Kithgard. Like you can build the most obnoxious cloud walls. You can build forest walls. I mean, you can build 6-point lights that drop force, and then they're like sidestepping lights, so they're gonna kill infantry just fine, get into places, contest, be annoying, and they're only 6 points, so you're just like whatever. But they make 12 inches of forest wall, which True Sight doesn't see through, Isle of Sight doesn't see through.
Right, and if they're standing in a forest,
plus 2 defense.
And if they're standing next to a guard post, like you want to shoot him, he's defense 17. You want to melee him, he's defense 17.
Yeah, have fun. I think the guard post is sort of, I'm not that interested in. I think it's good. I just hate it. I hate the whole concept of it. So I probably won't play it. But
elaborate on that.
A big dumb immobile thing that I put someplace, and I don't know. It's just not. Doesn't feel like War Machine to me. For me, War Machine is movement and positioning. And sure, you position that at some point. But I just hate it for me, for how I like to play. Because it also says, I'm going to stand here. Because if you don't, why did you bring it? And it's enough points where you're, I don't know. It's just, I dislike buildings. I especially dislike paying points for buildings. Even if they have powerful effects, it's just not for me.
Well, so I'll offer you a counterpoint. So I see where you're going with that, and I've stopped playing Fire Guardians in my Brian's list at the moment. But last year when I was playing Fire Guardians in both lists, partially because I desperately needed magic weapons and they were the only way to get it. Every time I would deploy those things, I'm like, okay, now it's time to deploy my liabilities because I get one crack at it. And they can turn into liabilities. Where your opponent, like, there's this thing that you can't move, you can't counter position with, that your opponent may just get to tee off on. What advantage to guard posts? And I did have this discussion over the weekend, like where we all had to figure out where the structure rules were and reread them because it's so bizarre. These things can't be charged or slammed, which is quite nice. But they're also considered 120 millimeter models, regardless of what their actual base size is. So they can always be seen, basically.
Yep. That's interesting.
So there's trade-offs, but I mean, I'll make the defense of, like, if I'm eyeing up somebody like Tarja Grimtusk, you are broadcasting that you want to stand here, but in basically every game, just because of the scenario, there are points where you gotta stand anyways.
It's true. That's true. And then the guy who's the one that gives them Carapace?
That's Stormcraw. Yeah,
they're probably pretty good there. I mean,
right.
Also, nobody will ever play 4 guard posts. Get out of here, Multra. That seems
insane.
That is crazy talk.
That's a fifth of your list into models that don't count for scoring, and are basically just bringing POW 12 guns.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking at something like a Tarja Grimtusk, okay, there are portions of the board that you have to stand in, and if I'm really looking to leverage the movement abilities of the Virager and Crimson Ballet to create sort of abusive dynamics, I know about where the engagement is going to happen, and I'm going to know where I want to fall back to. So I can pre-position, like, I did this video a month or two ago called Fortresses and Theaters of Engagement, talking about, if we look at a board of War Machine, like, you can divide the board into actually 3 distinct areas where play actually happens. And then the scenarios land in the Eastern, Central, and Western theaters differently and change their relative importance. They also create natural situations where you want to fortress somewhere, where it's a point that you can traverse and hold very easily and stage from that's difficult for your opponent to attack. You can essentially place these guard posts at these natural confluence points, variable by scenario, and like just carve out some really like localized superiority in the most consequential areas of the board.
I like that. I suppose I could use the guard post with Veil of Mist and charge through it. That's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. Can't
Which, by the way,
through it though. Watch out for that.
Yeah, well, can't have everything. You can see through the Veil of Mist. You just can't see through.
That's true. Post.
Yeah. But we didn't talk about that, but that's also another lever that you can pull that really, because a lot of times there's like obstacles in the game that your opponent has to go around, and you're just like, oh, cool, I can just charge through this whenever I want.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about. Well, I guess I should ask. Do you have any more commentary on sort of the the old Menoth spirit shining through in Kithgard before I move on to asking you some more general questions?
I was kind of surprised at it's very catcher's MIDI, at least the list that I built. It doesn't have to be that way. I think that you can build quite offensive lists that are ambushy or whatever. But Protectorate is always what it has been at its best, has been those layers of denial, and sort of, I don't know, in some ways being not inexorable like, old school Meat Mountain was. That was a little more like that Decathlon list, which was just shove it all forward and do a gear check. Protectorate was more like, in a lot of factions do this, but Protectorate was the first faction that was like, let me put you under cognitive load and see if you can deal with what I'm tying in front of you, what I'm putting in front of you. And we're going to play a game where I'm sort of dictating the flow of the game, and I have all the reps. So my stuff is not as good as your stuff. If you ever looked at point for point, stat for stat Protectorate models versus every other factions, you'd be like, well, these are not very good. And you'd be right. They were not very good. But again, it was the sum of its parts. It just was a very interesting way to play. But I like thinking when I'm playing, which is why I enjoy things that give me a high cognitive load while I'm playing, but it's also why I can't play more than like 2 games in a row. I'm just like too old now. So there is an advantage to, like the Decathlon list that was played. There is a lot of nuance to it, I'm sure, but there's some advantage to. I kind of have a standard open, which is I kind of deploy in a very similar fashion, and I kind of move my stuff in a very similar way. And there's not a lot of like unpacking even into turn 2 is like Meat Mountain was that way. Herp derp, I walk forward, I cast some buffs, I'm done,
You shift the burden of like needing to burn cycles on the game over to your opponent. And especially when way back in the day, 6-round single day qualifiers were not at all unheard of, but they've definitely become a beast of the past. And when you're doing a 5-round day one with the prospect of more games in the morning, playing something that saves you, like cognitive and physical effort is a big deal. Like in an endurance competition tournament that's more than 4 rounds, every game that you get that's like either mentally very easy for you, because you don't have to think much, or that ends in an assassination is like a major boon for your prospects of doing well, because you get to physically and mentally recover.
Yes. So in a sufficiently long tournament, it's very difficult to play that way well. But you also get some inherent advantages, because unless somebody is a local player that plays a lot of that into you, you maybe don't see it enough to understand what's going to happen.
Right.
Because of the flexibility. So, and I can have, like, if I play that list that I laid out, I can have plan A, B, C, and D for any given turn. And all of them will be effective to some degree or another. And it sort of depends on what you do. Like how you respond gives me the opportunity to respond in the way that I want to, where you don't get that much agency in a lot of lists you play. You get agency. There's always nuance and tactics, right? There's which is positioning, not screwing up and giving stuff away for nothing or whatever. But this is a little different, I guess, way that I'm thinking about it, which probably sounds obnoxious, but
no, I get it. Gosh, it's probably worth just doing, writing some sort of script or something that really breaks open the nature of agency and cognitive load in a game and where you have it and where you don't. And almost like going hard into a shtick while it feels incredibly powerful is also, more than you would expect, the sacrifice of agency and room for spontaneity and dynamism in your game plan. I definitely see and feel that. And, there's a turning point because agency also has to pay, the caloric cost in terms of brain sweat. But when you're managing it properly, or when you're building for certain aspects of denial, or like if your cognitive effort goes into creating puzzles, you actually get to turn around and reimpose the cost you just paid on your opponent, usually with interest, right?
Well, in theory, right? That should be your advantage, because you have played this game before and maybe your opponent hasn't, or maybe you've played this game 100 times and your opponent has played it 3 times.
Well, even if your opponent has a great deal of fluency in the matchup, they do still have to pay the cost, because the variation you're going to pursue isn't guaranteed. And a nice thing I think about having like more or less 2 steady picks for like ambush in a list is you can say, okay, I'm defensively imposing this cost, and then here are 3 options of tunnel markers. I'm also going to have an undisclosed offensive punishment for you later based on how you choose to prosecute this defensive puzzle.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I don't know. I feel like the list paradigm that I'm talking about, if piloted well, would be a very good all-comers list. And you could play it literally into almost anything. You might get beat by a hard gear check, maybe, if you can't slow it down enough. But just because if you have a contest where you both have to stand in the middle of the board, now you're I don't think Kithgard excel at that. They're not bad, but they're not. It's not Meat Mountain. They're not gonna just go and pile into a place and say, all right, here I am, chew on this. Well, that's not going to be effective.
There are certain model types that can really screw you over for trying to run this sort of plan, but one of the beautiful things about Steelbacks is like, okay, they have these nice flamethrowers. Okay, they hit decently hard. Okay, it sucks butts to shoot at them, and killing them is a serious multiple turn endeavor. If you're playing a catcher's mitt, and particularly if you're playing a catcher's mitt that wants to approach the game in a very slow and deliberate pace, the fact that you can set up the catcher's mitt, stake out your area of the board, and say, okay, you're going to approach this very, very slowly, and then eventually you're going to connect with crucial models that, like, okay, I can paralyzing gaze and flamethrower down or whatever it is, or oh, you're just going to run heavies in and, like start to like attrition or whatever. And like, how are you going to clear the scenario? Well, my 6 guys are going to walk forward and every one of them is going to throw a heavy, like easy peasy. Just like we've reduced the game to such a speed that their ability to power attack throw on 3 guys in 2 units is like, that's quite substantial.
It's not nothing. That is for sure. I forgot about that. That is something I did note earlier, but yeah, like the more I think about it, the more I'm interested in like testing some of the different options for the ambushes. Because I mean, obviously the scrappers are good in that they have a quick gun. But honestly, I think the throat cutters are maybe the way to go. They're kind of fire and forget. I mean, you're going to drop them off and they're all going to die.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think if you're looking to respond to like somebody powering through your control and denial effects, then probably just double throat cutters is the way to go. Just to give you the sheer volume just to crack back on that. Versus the scrappers are like a much more elite precision counter. Throat cutters are sort of just like a blunt offensive instrument, ironically.
Do they have dual attack? They don't, do they?
No, neither of the units has dual attack.
Okay. That would probably be broken on either one of those units.
It probably would. They probably could not have cleave and snapfire if they they have cleave. They may as well have dual attack because they have cleave and gun cleave. So as long as they're killing, everybody makes multiple attacks, which is pretty wild at attacks that good.
Yeah, they're quite like playable. I mean, they are 8 points for 5 fairly squishy guys, but they always get delivered. So
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they always get to land their punch first, which is really big value. So the Kithgard discussion, this has been illuminating for me and pointed in the direction of, I think, some eternal concepts around agency and strategy that are worth fleshing out. What I want to ask you is, you've been away for the better part of half a year. And you came in out of the blue after deliberately extricating yourself back into the nerd space of our hobby. It's clear that the passion is something that never dies. But what was it like walking into that live tournament environment, and what's your sense of the game and the hobby like suddenly springing back in again?
I mean, it's so, I think I said this before like many times, but it's following along the trajectory that I expected it to, which is that, early 2009, 2010, 2011 rocket ship that was the beginning of Mark II, where you would go to tournaments and suddenly you're like, wow, we got like 100 people at this tournament. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And then pretty soon you show up at Lock and Load and there's like 400 or 500 or 800 War Machine players in one place. You're just like, holy crap, I can't even believe this is happening. Or War Machine Weekend, same thing. I think there was like a 230 person last chance qualifier once that I remember. Stuff like that.
My friend Brett Ward wound up losing in the finals to oh god, who was it? Damn, now I'm forgetting his name. Jason Watt. Jason Watt in the finals of one of those big 200 plus person ones.
Yeah, last chance was literally chip in a chair. Those were the good old days. But I mean, so the crazy thing is, Privateer Press right now is growing on, I would say, nostalgia and the old player base, right? But eventually we're going to hit critical mass and we're going to start attracting new players. And I think the press gang is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting to think about where the game might go. Like,
yeah. Cause, the press ganger loop back in is crucial. Cause like, last year we were starting to come back out of how small we had gotten used to events being and cons and stuff. Privateer who?
That's funny.
Because there was a diminution of events, and then I think last year going to Warfare Weekend / Lock and Load, it was remarkable that there were hundreds and hundreds of people there, and virtually everyone was there for War Machine. Like after a year of like relatively small qualifiers, to walk into that environment and see the con hall for War Machine filled in a way I hadn't seen in years, and then to watch like Captain Con and Adepticon like blow the doors off, we're seeing a lot of people coming back, a lot of people discovering the game for the first time. I think, when the press gang, really gets up and mobilized, it's going to be something unprecedented, or rather not precedented for several decades. It is going to very much be like the second coming of 2011, 2012 sort of times.
Yep. So Kithgard has me interested enough to think about it. Protectorate, I probably will come back and play. Hopefully
Protectorate has you interested enough to volunteer for play testing.
I know. That's crazy. That was crazy. But I was like, I think I could help. I could at least give perspective, right?
Yeah. And how to deliver on the thematic feel. Because it's one thing to say, like, here is, something like, say, a Crix 3.0 that we have slapped a Menafix on. If the feel's wrong, the faction's wrong, right?
Yep. But man, yeah, Kithgard just really do kind of feel very protectorate to me. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I see what I want to see. I'm not sure if that's...
Sure. I mean, I think there is some of that. I basically see Scorn wherever I look. So
yeah, right?
Yeah. I mean, the remixing of factions and themes is at least very nice, and that's something I think Steamforge is doing quite artfully. We have Advanced Maneuver Gaming. I was more impressed by Adepticon having 4 rows of competitive play tables and 4 rows of Iron Arena going on Saturday. Glad to see casual play is getting as much attendance as tournaments. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're even necessarily counting like the narrative events in there, which is like 12 to 14 players, depending on how many they get in any given session.
They were having so much fun too. That was the first thing I saw when I came in on Saturday night, right? Was laughing and cajoling and just having a grand old time. So that was cool. Plus, Tyson had brought some of the tables, the narrative tables, which was cool. So if we ever get the Bevs and Tyson together to build narrative events, so he does the tables and they do the narrative design, like, it'll be over.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Imagine what they could have on like a full year's worth of planning for a central con or something. That would be incredible. Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's about time for us to wrap up. Any final thoughts, shout outs, or anything you want to make people aware of, John?
I'm happy to chat a little bit. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Obviously I don't have a studio set up in the new place here, and I haven't touched War Machine. I'm actually a little bit concerned because I'm not very good at finding balance. So I'll figure it out. But
yeah. Well, I mean, keep the life balance. It seems like you're thriving. We know what the trigger point is to entice you back in. So Jay Beatnik, Demenites are back.
Cosmonauts, that's funny.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming back on the show. It was really great to see you this weekend and catch up in Milwaukee and catch up again now. For all the Demenites out there, thanks everybody for watching, and Keith, take us away.